With the introduction of Duviri and a lot of brand new Incarnon weapons, the old Incarnon weapons were a bit forgotten. Does that mean they're not powerful anymore? Does that mean that the mighty Phenmor doesn't have a spot in the meta? Well, not exactly. Hey guys, welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be updating the Phenmor, though not a lot has changed. The Phenmor is still a fantastic single target weapon, and I highly recommend it. If you want to see more, however, stick around. Keep in mind that my builds and guides usually take a new player-friendly tone, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. That said though, this is anything but a new player weapon, so we're going to jump straight into the endgame setup. So there are the way, the Phenmor. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped. And for that, just a couple of our regular free shots. The Phenmor is an absolute powerhouse of a single target weapon, but to get to that damage, you're gonna have to access the Incarnon form. And to get to the Incarnon form, you're gonna have to go for headshots and get that charge, like most Incarnon weapons. When it comes to the brand new enemies, we're talking about the rogue Riven that you can find throughout Deimos. Make sure you hit the shoulder plates. Essentially, you have two canisters on either side. That's gonna add like a headshot charge. With a full charge on this one, you're gonna get a massive 408 bullets, projectiles, whatever you want to call it, to chuckle at your enemies. Keep in mind, this is a projectile-based attack, and you don't need to go to full charge in order to access the Incarnon form by pressing your middle mouse button or left stick on controller. Correct me if I'm wrong, there's been quite some time since I used a controller. In terms of usability, well, there's really not a whole lot you can complain about. This one peppers the entire crosshairs with bullets in rapid fashion. So it's not exactly the kind of weapon I would recommend to go for headshots, not because the accuracy is bad, but because we're gonna build the weapon into minus crit, and we're gonna build the weapon into raw damage, so you can easily aim at whatever body part you want. Here's another advantage to going for such a build. The weapon by default has punch through, so you're gonna easily get, even though it's a single target weapon, get that AoE-like experience. In normal form, things change a bit. This is the kind of weapon that you want to use in its Incarnon form. It's not a Fellark style of weapon, but you still need the normal form to get that charge. So it basically acts like a semi-automatic weapon with a projectile-based attack that has travel speed and a little bit of drop-off depending on the distance between you and your target. You might want to aim slightly above enemies' heads. And again, as stated before, you can go Incarnon form with any level of charge, even a single one. Keep in mind that the speed of the animation will be determined by your reload speed, so reload speed mods are not entirely worthless. Incarnon form's fire rate cools down from 100% to 60% over 51 shots as the trigger is held. Spool resets once the player stops firing, encouraging brief bursts of fire rather than sustained fire. And to prove this, we're gonna go Incarnon form. Now just listen to it. You heard that? Yeah? The point is, you wanna stop and essentially kind of play with it like that in Incarnon form. One last thing that you should know about, the charge in Incarnon form is not treated as magazine but as a charge, so plus magazine mods will have no effect. And not only, but more on that when we look at talents. Speaking about talents, did you notice something? The new Incarnon weapons that were released with the Duviri Paradox have only 4 Incarnon trees, while the old ones, aka the Latum, the Fellarks, the Phenmor, have 5. Getting over the first one that just enables the Incarnon transformation, at level 2 you have the following talent, Rapid Draft, 20% fire rate. This is going to be the best in slot from a DPS perspective. From a usability perspective, especially if you're having trouble charging the weapon, go for Void's Guidance with 50% accuracy and 50% less recoil while aiming. In normal form, this essentially makes the weapon dead still, or almost dead still. There's one more option, this one is called Swift Deliverance, and it will offer you 80% projectile flight speed, again less leading of your targets because we are talking about a projectile-based attack. At level 3, my option is gonna be Retribution's Vessel with 50% magazine capacity. It may not be the most exciting of talents, and this one only applies to its normal form, taking the magazine from 30 bullets to 45 bullets, but the other two are basically put worse. Ready Retaliation on reload from empty, 100% reload for 6 seconds, fantastic, yes, but it only applies to the normal form, which again, we don't really want to use. We just want to use it to charge our weapon. And the final one is called Executioner's Fortune on headshot kill. Headshot kill. So if your targets die under the effect of slashes or heat procs or whatever damage over time, you're not going to be getting this. 20% chance to instant reload. So if you're a sharpshooter, go for this one. And of course, you will want that minus recoil and plus accuracy. But then again, you're playing in normal mode, which I don't really recommend. At Evolution 4, we're gonna go for Incarnon Efficiency. This would be the smart way to go, at least from my humble point of view. Headshots build 50% more Incarnon Transmutation charge. Again, if you're having trouble charging the weapon, this one will help you a whole lot. Obviously, the safe route is gonna be through Survivor's Edge. This is a common talent among Incarnon weapons, 10% critical chance and 10% status chance. If you wanna go the safe route, this would be the way to go, especially if you wanna build Hunter munitions on the weapon, which we will not be doing because that's not the quote-unquote optimal way, at least not for the Phenmor. You got Hunter munitions on like 80% of weapons. I'm glad you don't need to have it on this one. The final option will be Elemental Excess. This is a best in slot for the raw damage approach, plus 20% status chance, minus 10% crit chance. Why in the name of God would you want minus 10% crit chance? Da-da-da-ba-da-bum. At the final evolution, Evolution 5, you got the following talent called Devouring Attrition. And this one says the following: 50% chance to deal plus 2000% damage on non-critical hits. So you see, this is why people don't build the Phenmor into crit. Did you see people on trade chat say, hey, I'm looking for a minus crit Phenmor? This is the reason why. The other options? Well, you can go with Spiteful Defilement. Enemies suffering from fewer than 3 status effects will receive plus 100% critical damage. And this is beautiful, fantastic. But I have the same criticism for this one that I had back in 2022 when the Phenmor released. Fewer than 3 is 2. So in today's day and age, when you have primers all over the place and your targets are getting bombarded with a ton of status effects, you want me to have fewer than 2 on the target? That's simply not all that feasible in today's gameplay. And to jump through hoops to get less damage out of my weapon just so I can use this, you know what? No thank you, I'm good. You want us to use this? Make it fewer than 6. So it's like 5. And the final one is called Lingering Judgment. On 2 headshots within 2 seconds, 50% headshot damage for 8 seconds. Again, this one plays into the whole sharpshooter way of the weapon that you want. If you want to play, you can. Executioner's Fortune coupled together with less recoil, more accuracy, and of course, the extra headshot damage from Lingering Judgment. You can go about it that way and play the weapon into normal form. I wouldn't recommend it. This is a whole lot more fun. Now, as stated before, the Phenmor is anything but a new player-friendly weapon, so we're not gonna have a new player guide for this one, a new player setup, because if you're a new player, you shouldn't really be getting your hands on this one. We're gonna be focusing instead on the endgame setup. And we're looking at something like this, which is refreshing because there's no crit mods and there's no hunter munitions, which normally on primary weapons doesn't really happen. Multi-shot with Galvanized Chamber, Vigilante armaments, Galvanized Aptitude is here because it works a treat. You got a whole lot of flat damage, more than you actually need. With Serration and Primary Merciless, you want to go for Merciless for that 30% reload speed because again, it affects the transformation speed of the weapon. More fire rate with Vol Acceleration, mwah, beautiful. And we got plenty of flat damage to take care of that minus 15%. We also got 260 mods forming Corrosive. Now, did you notice something? Of course you did, because you're a very smart individual. You see, I use the unranked Malignant Force and High Voltage. That's simply because I want the status chance and I want the elemental combination of Corrosive, but I don't want to increase its proc priority. I want proc priority number 1 to be Slash, and it is! However, if you're going to be using maxed out 60/60 mods, it goes out the window and your proc priority goes to Corrosive number 1. You don't need more than 10 Corrosive procs, so there you go. Go for the unranked 60/60s. And if you don't like Bane mods, because I know you bloody hate Bane mods, I hate them too, you can go for more flat damage, even though there's plenty on the build, and if not, go for even more fire rate. When it comes to Rivens, I have a Riven. We're not going to use the Riven, I'm just using it for showcase purposes. There you go, now you can see it. You see the Riven here has multi-shot and damage. I'm here to prove a point. When it comes to Riven disposition of only 1 out of 5, you shouldn't go out there and bust your ass to get fantastic Rivens, because they're simply not worth it. But if you must have a Riven, multi-shot is a thing, definitely minus crit is another thing, so try to focus on those 2 stats. You should have a whole lot of fun with that one. No crit, okay, so multi-shot and minus crit will be your prior 1 and 2. You can also get an element on it, that would not be a bad idea. Now, of course, I'm gonna be applying a whole lot of slash to my targets, but there's no viral. How am I gonna be getting viral? Well, there's plenty of ways in Warframe. You can use Grendel's Nourish, or maybe you can use a primer, a secondary primer, or a little Diriga, which is the best primer in the game right now. I'm gonna recommend a jumping off point in terms of a build for the Diriga. use something like this, okay? It doesn't require a whole bunch of forma, just one, you'll be fine. I think you can get away without any forma whatsoever, and it's gonna be good for like mostly any content in Warframe. Make sure you use the Hellstorm with the Diriga with a build such as this for priming. That's gonna be getting on my target's impact, heat, battle, and a little bit of puncture as well. You can also manipulate that build to proc other arcanes for the weapon, though keep in mind that when it comes to primary frostbite or primary blight, you're getting critical damage from those, not only just multi-shot, critical damage that you can't really use with a raw damage build. Level 180 corrupted heavy goons with the steel path modifiers enabled. We're going to be unpausing the target so they can hit me and I can get my Diriga onto them. Because you see the Diriga is kind of bugged. If the targets are standing still, it's not going to do much of anything. So, I am charged now. Single target, yeah, but still absolutely brutal against these corrupted heavy goons. If I stop firing, you can even see the damage over time. You don't need to go for headshots per se, you can go for body shots, you're still gonna basically annihilate whatever corrupted heavy goon stands before you, like so. Look at that. Beautiful, fantastic, glorious. As for my charge, I started off on full charge, so 408 bullets, and I still have roughly half remaining. Take a look at that. How could you not enjoy a gameplay experience such as this? No need for headshots, my friends. No need for fancy anything. The only thing that I can say is slightly skill-based in gameplay is getting that initial Incarnon charge, because you will have to go for headshots. But perhaps you're tired of the same old corrupted heavy goons every single time. What about the brand new faction, the Murmur? I'm playing the brand new faction, the brand new content. Well, in that case, we do have to alter the build. Instead of Prime Bane of the Corrupted, we're gonna have to go for the Murmur equivalent. We don't have a Prime version just yet, but I wouldn't worry about it. D won't lose the opportunity to introduce that. And you might say, hold on, Laser, I really don't want to play into faction damage, but you gotta bear in mind that this weapon gets most of its damage on its target through damage over time, that fantastic slash. So you need that faction modifier because it double dips. If you still don't understand how exactly that works, link the cards right now. It's a full and detailed guide on hunter munitions that touches exactly on that specific aspect. And keep in mind that the Phenmor going for a non-crit build is extremely limited in terms of modding, because you can't go for critical chance, you can't go for critical damage. Adding another element into the mix will lower the proc priority of slash. What you could do is go with Fang Fusillade and add more slash, but adding plus physical types to the weapon, just plus slash or puncture, etc., doesn't really do much of anything for your actual damage, it just increases the proc priority. So you gotta access that faction multiplier. Bear that one in mind. Flat damage, you got more than enough on this one. Welcome to Deimos, my friends. Now let's see what the mighty Phenmor can do versus the Murmur. Are the Murmur tough targets? Well, I can't say they're tough in terms of survivability. They are annoying because actually getting proper charge versus them can be a little bit on the difficult side. Keep in mind that you gotta burst fire, stop, and burst fire again, so you keep up the fire rate when it comes to Incarnon form. As for the Phenmor, I mean, please, it can absolutely wreck whatever stands before you, no problem whatsoever. The only difficult part in gameplay is actually getting that charge versus the Murmur, so bear that one in mind. As for Citrine, we're not going to be using her 3 ability or her 4 ability because that will skew the test results. We're just going to be using her 2 ability for survivability and her 1 ability so I can keep up my energy. There's a charge about 70%, and there you go. Essentially mowing down whatever stands before you in fantastic fashion. When it comes to charging the weapon, because I feel this really needs to be stressed out, try to charge it on little doggies, or try to charge it on the big floaty things. Do not try to charge it on these guys because it is hella annoying, and you're not going to be getting that fantastic charge all that quickly. So again, whatever else, just not the Colurvin. As for damage, again, I don't think you can really complain, not when it comes to base level Steel Path. Flash, flash, Acolyte is coming to town. Okay, I'm gonna conserve my charge. I got about 60%. Here he comes. It's Angst coming straight down to me. Here somewhere. Angst, where'd he go? It's here somewhere. Just shoot everything. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. There's Angst. No more Angst. Easy. Thank you very much. Time to draw some conclusions regarding the mighty Phenmor. Is it still all that mighty? And the answer is no, not really. Simply because you have other options nowadays. When the Phenmor came out, it was the go-to single target weapon. Like nothing could really compete with it. It was almighty. Nowadays, you got other options when it comes to Incarnon Weapons, especially in the single target department. Have a look at the Incarnon Boltor. this does not make the Phenmor a weak or a non-powerful weapon. This is still a top 10 worthy weapon. However, it's got a lot of company now. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, my name has been Laser. Like, favorite, channel, subscribe only if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me, let me know in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below if you want to suggest any particular type of content. You can also catch me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. But until next time, my friends, bye-bye.